For generations, we've been told there are only two ways to organize an economy: capitalism or socialism. Pick your team, wave your flag, fight for your system. But here's what nobody mentions in those debates. Neither one has ever worked the way its champions promised. Not once, not anywhere. And the countries that thrived weren't the ones with the purest ideology. They were the ones willing to break the rules. Welcome to the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide. Nothing is ever as simple as it looks. The story most people know starts with the Industrial Revolution. Britain in the 1700s, with coal, steam, and factories. Capitalism was born in those smoke-filled cities, turning craftsmen into factory workers and transforming entire societies overnight. For the first time in history, wealth was not just inherited or conquered. It could be created through innovation, investment, and ruthless competition. The results were staggering. Productivity exploded. Goods became cheaper and more abundant. A middle class emerged from nowhere. But so did something else: brutal inequality. Children working 16-hour shifts, slums breeding disease, wealth concentrating in fewer and fewer hands. Capitalism delivered growth, but at a cost that seemed unsustainable. That's when socialism emerged, not as a fantasy, but as a response to real suffering. Thinkers like Karl Marx looked at the factory floors and concluded the system itself was the problem. If workers owned the means of production collectively, if profits were shared, if production served human need rather than private gain, society could finally be just. No more exploitation, no more boom and bust cycles, just rational planning and dignity for all. It sounded moral. It sounded clean. And for millions crushed under capitalism's gears, it sounded like salvation. But theory is one thing. Practice is something else entirely. The first major test came in 1917, when the Russian Revolution turned an empire into the world's first socialist state. The Soviets abolished private property, nationalized industries, and replaced markets with central planning. Bureaucrats set prices and production targets. The profit motive was eliminated. In theory, it should have created equality. In practice, it created shortages, stagnation, and famine. Without price signals, planners couldn't know what people needed. Without competition, factories had no incentive to innovate. Without personal reward, workers did the bare minimum. The system that promised abundance delivered scarcity instead. But capitalism was not exactly winning either. By 1929, the contradictions in market economies detonated spectacularly. The stock market crashed. Banks collapsed. Unemployment hit 25%. The Great Depression proved that capitalism could fail just as catastrophically as socialism, just in different ways. So, by the 1930s, the world faced an uncomfortable truth. Both systems were broken. Socialism promised equality, but delivered poverty. Capitalism promised prosperity, but delivered collapse. Then came World War II, the ultimate stress test. And something fascinating happened. The Soviet Union, despite its inefficiencies, mobilized its entire economy with brutal effectiveness. Meanwhile, the United States proved that capitalism, when properly directed, could become an industrial juggernaut. Neither system worked in its pure form, but both could perform under extreme pressure when forced to adapt. After 1945, the world became a laboratory. The Soviet bloc on one side had central planning, state control, and suppressed markets. The Western world, on the other, had regulated capitalism with safety nets born from Depression-era lessons. This was the real experiment, not the theory, not the speeches, but millions of people living the consequences for half a century. The results were dramatic. Soviet Russia industrialized rapidly at first. Literacy soared, housing expanded, and military power grew. But beneath the surface, the system was dying. By the 1970s, the Soviet Union could build nuclear weapons, but could not produce decent refrigerators. Factories met quotas by making unusable products. Innovation stalled, and the economy drifted into absurd inefficiency. Meanwhile, capitalism evolved. Western nations added regulations, social security, unemployment insurance, public health care, and antitrust laws. The system did not become fair, but it became survivable. And that adaptability was its secret weapon. By the time the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, the debate seemed settled. The Soviet Union collapsed not from military defeat, but from economic exhaustion, empty shelves, broken incentives, and an economy that simply could not keep up. But capitalism's victory did not last. By the 2000s, the contradictions returned. The 2008 financial crisis reminded everyone that instability never disappeared. It just came back, wearing different clothes. Inequality soared again. Entire economies became dependent on debt and speculation. And younger generations, crushed by housing costs and stagnant wages, began questioning whether capitalism still worked for anyone but the wealthy. Today, the debate is back, but with a twist, because almost nobody wants pure capitalism or pure socialism anymore. History made the trade-offs too clear. Look at Scandinavia, often called socialist, but actually running free market economies with strong social protections. Look at the United States, capitalist innovation paired with massive inequality and crumbling infrastructure. Look at China, authoritarian state power directing capitalist markets, a hybrid nobody predicted. The uncomfortable truth is this: every successful modern economy is a mix: markets and state power, incentives and protections, freedom and control. Not because ideologies failed, but because reality forced compromise. When systems met real human behavior, ambition, greed, creativity, laziness, neither theory held up cleanly. Under pure capitalism, innovation becomes exploitation. Under pure socialism, equality becomes repression. Different systems, same human flaws. The real question isn't which system is better. It's which system can adapt, correct mistakes, and restrain power. And history's answer is clear: the system that evolves wins. Capitalism survived because it could reinvent itself, from laissez-faire to the New Deal to globalized finance. Socialism collapsed where it refused to change. The Soviet Union, Maoist China, North Korea. But socialism thrived where it merged with markets. Scandinavia, post-1978 China, Western Europe. Ideology didn't decide the winners. Adaptation did. Both systems have strengths. Both have failures. And the modern world is built on their scars. Every regulation, every welfare program, every market rule carries the DNA of this century-long battle. The mixed economies we live in aren't proof that one system won. They're proof that neither could survive alone. Here is the part most people miss. The debate is shifting again. The challenges of the 21st century, AI disruption, climate risk, global debt, do not care about ideology. They expose weaknesses in both systems. The countries that thrive will be those that combine market creativity with public resilience, private innovation with public direction. History did not choose capitalism or socialism. History chose whatever prevented collapse. And every generation has to renegotiate that balance. Because the debate was never really about capitalism versus socialism. It was about who controls the levers, the capital, the state, the banks, the corporations. The real fight is always over the same thing: power. And power, as history shows again and again, does not disappear. It just changes hands. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I will show you where to look.